You have questions, we have answers. This is Jane Muller.
And this is Ken Muller. Welcome to our show, all about real estate with Ken and Jane. Today, we have as our guest Frank Formisano. He's the owner of the ServPro of Piscataway, Clifton, and I think Rutherford.
East Rutherford.
East Rutherford. Okay, I was close. I tried.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah. So welcome to our show, Frank.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
It's our pleasure. So this show is about real estate, and hand in hand with real estate goes restoration, cleanup services for mold, asbestos, all the fun things you encounter in a house. So tell us about how you got into ServPro, how you became a business owner. What motivated you to get into the restoration and cleanup?
It's very interesting. So I come from a family of immigrants. I'm a first generation, and my family always owned businesses. So I first started off in auto parts, and I was in the auto parts industry for 15 years until my late 30s. And ServPro at the time was a $680 million a year company. And the license, the valuation of the license to actually buy a territory was very reasonable. It was like $29,000. And I just read, and I know once companies get to $1 billion, they become very expensive. People want to buy that, pick them out. So I really bought the license just to really park it. I was in the auto parts industry with my dad and my aunts. We had a bunch of stores in the Hudson County and Newark area. Had a bunch. We had 3. We had repair shops. So I bought this. Just the idea of parking the license, the valuation, I thought was good. I thought eventually the company got $1 billion, I can sell my license. Lo and behold, it was a Friday night. I was home, and I got a call. Pipe broke in a big building. I went there. I had no idea. I was in the business for 4 months. I had no idea what I was doing. So I went out there, worked all weekend, tried to do the best job I could. And it worked out okay. And then one day they said, okay, well, for all that work, here is your check. And I looked at the check, and I was like, wow, this is a good business. So I said, you know what? Automotive industry took me out of my house very early. I had very young kids. It made me work a lot of hours, weekends. It was just very difficult. Different dealing with the public, so with that, in a very long story, I just said, you know what, I can do much better in the restoration business than I can, especially spend more time with my family. We were at that point where our businesses were big enough, where other auto parts stores, other bigger companies wanted to buy us. I was able to sell my businesses, and that's how I got into the restoration business. And
that's
a long way.
Cool. And you learned a lot.
Yes.
You learned hands-on by doing this stuff. And I guess back then you had to have a skeleton crew, because you can't, if you have these emergency response services, which you guys do, you can't, even though Frank is good and is 24/7, Frank alone can't restore the pipe breaks. You need a reliable crew, staff that comes with good ownership, good mentoring, good programs to make sure that you have crew that are reliable, skilled, and responsive.
I guess because Frank's family is own the business, immigrant, the hard working is kind of installed in our DNA. And by growing up and working in the business in such young age, the management side of the business already there. So it's just like can apply what do you have from the auto industry to this industry. So the principle, even though the work is very different,
but the customer skills,
the customer skill, the knowledge, the work ethic, the core is the same. So that's what makes success. Yes.
I think coming from an immigrant family, and it's very like both sides. My dad was born here, but his family was born in Poland, in Italy, and all over the place. The culture to work was inert. Like I was genetically born to own. I remember being a child, 3 or 4 years old, people played like G.I. Joe, whatever.
Yeah,
I used to play owning my own gas station. I mean,
That's
pretty cool. Yeah,
I wish we can do that to our daughter because our daughter born in our family. We are working, as you know, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
And but she
I remember the
doesn't
G.I.
get
Joe.
a
You're
business
dating us.
side.
That was back. Yeah, that I didn't. I just played with the G.I. Joes and the trucks and whatever. But I never thought about owning. But you're really
Never
you're really,
want to own
you're
one,
really an
right?
entrepreneur. That's I'll tell you.
I was an entrepreneur from 7.
Wow.
I mean, again, thank you, my mom and dad, right? That's really something, the foundation for me. But I remember selling killies, little. There was a bait store, and I would go to the river, catch the killies and sea caucus, and go in and sell them at the bait. It was just
wow.
that way.
Yeah, that's right. You're from Sea Caucus.
Yeah.
Remember, we have some common roots. I did some work up there for a lawyer, and we all know our friend, the gorilla we call him, who's now the mayor, Ganelli. Big G.
Yeah, Mr.
That was
Ganelli
a big.
is
Yeah, we did some campaigning
man.
for him. He was the town man. That's
he still is.
He still is. He is anything in Secaucus. He's the man.
And he seems to be so well spread out. Like he just seems to be able to help so many people.
Yeah.
Big fan of Mr. Ganelli, Mayor Ganelli.
Mayor Ganelli, right, of course, absolutely. So let's talk about what the services you guys do. If you do both commercial and residential primarily, and what types of homeowner services can they call you for?
Yeah.
I know there's a lot to cover, so
it's a lot.
take it.
Very
so we'll take it down. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's start off with commercial. We do a good amount of commercial. Commercial is really our go-to. Just because it's bigger numbers, the difference between commercial and residential is you do 10 residential jobs at $3 each, they're $30. You do one commercial, it's $50, and it's easier to manage. It's easy to manage costs. It's easy to manage production. It's preferred. But we do residential 20 to 1. We do everything related to mitigation and restoration and abatement. So let's just say we do fire, water, mold cleanups. You're selling your home, and there's this suspect mold in a basement. It's very common. They will call us to say, hey, this is possible mold, and what do you think about that?
Sure.
And at that point, we usually say, hey, did you guys get a hygienist to run samples? Because mold can be very deceiving. It could be dirt, and it looks. You put mold right next to dirt, and you can't tell the difference. We do a lot of work with insurance carriers. That's mostly what we do. We do fire, water. Pipes break. What happens when people are selling houses? They forget to turn the heat off, or they intentionally forget.
Especially this time of year.
We're doing one right now, and where the lady just was selling the house. Wanted to save a few bucks, and she didn't turn the heat on.
Yeah.
That's about us, right? Every house we represent, we make sure the heat is on. Especially when there's snow, there's a suddenly drop temperature. My assistants would go each house, vacant home, turn the heat on about 70.
Or at least or low 60s.
I mean,
at least.
if
But
you know it's a big storm,
you don't want to be too low. And a lot of times with the upper level, the bathrooms, you want to open up the cabinets so the heat, make sure the heat gets in, because a lot of people think they can turn the heat up, keep it at like 40, 45, 50, but no. It's got to be
storm.
If it gets too cold, that pipe can still. You just want to a little prevention is worth a pound of cure. So just turn the heat up and open up the cabinets so the heat gets into where it needs to go.
And another thing is when you're selling a house, right? When you keep your heat is a 50, for example, 45, 50. When people come in, they don't have the warm feeling.
Yeah, that's a very good angle.
Even without a big storm, our home, I always recommend our client keep 60, 65. That's a minimum. If we know there's going to be storm or suddenly drop the temperature, we go there, turn up to 70. When that happens, when the storm passes, we'll turn back on 65 or 60. Because you have to make the home comfortable. That's how we're selling the house. If you worry about the gas bill, I mean, how people perceive that, the home value, right? You cut a corner for the heat.
Without a doubt, that's a great statement. Walking into a home that's warm, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're selling it predicated solely on cost, right? So you don't care.
Yeah.
It's a knockdown. It's it's a very
different.
desirable neighborhood, but it's a crappy house.
Right.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
If a knockdown, they better winterize the house.
Yeah, we do that too.
And mold. Let's stick to mold for now. So mold is so tricky because you can have mold in the basement is prevalent, but also in the attics. We oftentimes encounter with the homes. She does all the residential. I do the commercial, but in the attics of homes, a lot of times if there's inadequate ventilation and you get the condensation, and then you get. So I'm sure you guys have gone in to attics all the time, and it may be limited to a little area, or it could be the whole entire attic and the rafters that are all mold infested have to be scrubbed down and treated, right?
Yeah, and that happens. Usually it's because of lack of maintenance of the home. When you have a completely encompassed basement attic, it's usually because the ventilation's been shut down, or the fans in the bathroom are not working
right, or they vent, or the fans from the bathroom vent to the attic instead of to the outside, which is supposed to do. And then you get all that condensation just building in the attic, and then it's a mold breeding ground.
Yeah. Dark, right? Dark colored, warm temperatures. Right?
Yeah, they got wood.
A lot of insulation.
And you have a growth, right? You need mold, you need food. You got the moisture food, so you got all the wood they can start munching on and have a field day, right?
Yeah, it happens.
We just had one home. The owner just changed the roof about a year or so. And because the installation, they put the installation inside. They covered, unfortunately, whoever did the job covered the
soffits.
The soffit.
Oh, you mean the insulation? They covered, she didn't pronounce it. They put insulation over the soffit, so you couldn't.
And then we had a mold issue
because it couldn't breathe. So
very common.
Yeah,
very common.
Yeah, so these are things that you see day in and day out, where you go into a home and because I guess you got to treat it, but you also have to determine the source of it so it doesn't reoccur, right? That's part of the.
Yes. Yeah, we try to, but we are not. There are specific fields that are called hygienists, industrial hygienists and residential. And that's really like if there's a significant mold concern where people are like, oh, golly, why is it? So then a hygienist would come in and determine it. We will go in initially if we get a phone call from a realtor that says, hey, we have a suspect, right? Because we don't know it's mold unless it's tested. We call it suspect
Correct,
mold.
right. You never, right.
And then we go in and test. Where I am most certain, we are. Mold is a very open-ended because mold is like, oh my gosh, you got mold.
But we got mold right here. It's the background.
I can run tests right now.
Blue cheese,
right?
That's my favorite sauce.
Mold is you got all different types of mold in the. So it's all background levels, and I don't know now if there's regulation standards. Obviously, they go if you have Stachybotrys and you have some of these other molds that are really nasty ones, and if you see them elevated, but I guess they try to look at the background levels and compare if the mold in the house is it really exceeding the background levels of the quote normal range, and if it is, then you have some type of abnormal problem that needs to be remediated,
addressed. Yeah. You really did your research because.
Well, I know this.
Because we deal with it day in day out. Every time they do the mold test.
Is an interesting word, right?
Exactly. That was the house in Texas. I think that caused the house to crumble. That's a famous case, right? For the mansion
Ted Nugent, Ted Nugent. Ted Nugent, with his claim, like he had a house, and it might have been even in Texas, where it was like he had to condemn the house because of Stachybotrys.
Yeah.
And Stachybotrys, it is a concerned mold. But it's rare.
We're going to take a break, but we'll continue this right after these messages. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. We're joined today with Frank Formisano. He's the owner of ServPro of Piscataway, Clifton, and East Rutherford. And Frank, before I forget, please give your phone number in case our listeners want to reach out to you for any of their home needs.
Oh, please. Thank you very much. My office number, and it connects all three of the franchises, is 732-752-4445. And please, if you have any questions about selling a house and you hear my interview, and please call up and ask. And if I can help you in any way, I would be more than happy to.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Doing the screening before you put the house on the market is something that even Jane does as a list agent, where she'll go there, and if she sees, we're going to talk about other issues with homes, like if there's cracks in the foundation, how that can be a big thing, or it may not be a big deal depending on the type of crack and the severity of the crack, and vertical, whether it's a vertical crack, horizontal crack. We're going to get into all that, and I guess you guys do foundation work too.
No. We don't do any structural at all.
No structural. Okay.
We're strictly. Yes, we do construction, but masonry stuff, that's a totally different field.
Right. But all right, let's finish up on mold. So mold is such a serious thing. I remember a story about a house where the family got extremely sick, and they went through all these tests, and they finally, long story short, they finally figured out that there was mold building up inside behind the walls, and it was causing them, they almost literally were extremely hospitalized. And finally, I forget if it was in Texas or somewhere, but it was there have been some very prevalent cases where mold
I remembered. You learned that from the
maybe from the
TV
real
show.
Yeah,
no, that was
that was maybe Forensic Files.
Yeah, Forensic
Yeah,
File.
that was a friend. I love that's my
somebody
favorite.
was very sick.
That's one of my favorite shows. Yeah, because I like the puzzle, how they put it together. Not the graphics, but that was a very educational one. That was
They said maybe they tried a poisoning because
they couldn't.
At the end, they found
out. And then they
had
to literally do destructive testing, open up, and they found that it was literally just like a cancerous thing within them. It was all over the place. And there was, because there was a leak it was a plumbing leak, and it got in behind the walls, and the water was continually pouring there, and it just caused the mold to just, exponentially expand like crazy. So, yeah.
In today's world, our houses are built so much better, but it's bad. Because our houses are so insulated now, right? With so many different layers of protection, of flooring, of 6 mil poly on the floors before you lay it down, that it's airtight.
Right.
That's bad. Airtight is bad. Because airtight means no air circulates in the home.
Right.
It's good because now it's warmer and your bills are less expensive and it's easier. Right. But
efficiency is good, but on the other hand, create a perfect environment for the mold to grow.
Exactly.
Yes.
Right. Right. So, what would you say mold is? What percentage of your jobs involve mold, and are you seeing it as still a big player in the current marketplace? Roughly, I mean.
Yeah, it's big. It's always going to be big. It's great. I mean, whoever was the marketing behind making mold an issue did a great job.
Yeah.
I think there's a fear. It's about 15 or 20, probably more like 10 or 15% of my volume is predicated off of mold mediation.
Yeah, I think it's a fear, there's a fear factor involved, and then some people are more allergic to mold than others. But I think there's certain types. I don't know if Stachybotrys is going to be lethal to everybody, or it again depends on the individuals. If you have asthma, if you have some breathing condition, obviously mold is just going to worsen that.
Just like COVID can, sometimes remember our friend, Paul. I mean, they were over 60s, 70s that time when the COVID just broke out. Happily, he was in the hospital that time to do a knee replacement. He already 70 plus, right? And when we heard he got COVID during the hospital visit, we thought, oh my God, that was the beginning, not the end. I thought, oh my God, that was kind of we all worried for him. And he and his wife fully recovered.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. Over some, a lot of time, another friend, like our friend Sue, right, didn't recover.
Oh, yeah. We had a friend from the town. Yeah, it was only, she was maybe in her 70 or so. Or,
I think late 60
healthy and just got it. So it's like you never know. Some people
I saw her in Christmas party and after New Year, and her husband, called and said, she passed away.
Yeah,
so that's
terrible.
really, I think the mold probably similar. It really depends on your body and your immune system.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And your everything,
maybe you're allergic or not allergic.
Just why do some people get lung
food.
cancer and never smoke? It's just sometimes you can't explain it. And then people that smoke, the small percentage never get it. So who knows? A lot of it is just genetics and luck of the draw.
It's a luck, right? A lot of it's
right?
luck, right?
Yeah. But at least,
But you do want to be careful with COVID, with children and with older people, right?
Yeah, with mold.
But I'm comparing mold. When you're younger, your lungs are developing, right? Your whole autoimmune system is developing. You want to keep it as clean as possible.
Yes.
Right. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. And it has a lot of negative effects. If it affects you, then you don't want to take a chance. If there's mold in your house at any level, it's not meant to be. Not meant to be.
But with addressing that scenario, a lot of times, and I see this more than you would want to. People do panic, and they get these reports. Hygienists come in, write these reports, and I'll look at the counts, and I'll be like, well, the counts aren't so bad, but they want you gutting the whole house. People do react. I don't know if the right word is to overreact, but overthink the worst case scenario because you're protecting your family, right?
You had a case like that too, right? Didn't you, with the house, the one house where the basement had something and it was some issues and then they got resolved, but I think sometimes people
worry.
Worry unnecessarily about they panic. They think that there's mold in this spot, that there's mold everywhere in the everywhere,
and that happens. Cross-contamination is the big word.
Right. But the problem, I think, the challenge with mold abatement is with finished basements, it's almost like you have to do destructive testing because you don't know, if you can't see behind the walls, you don't know how the extent of it without, so it's a little bit tricky, right?
Yeah,
I guess you encounter that as when you're dealing with it.
Oh, we do. And that's when it gets very tricky because sometimes people will be like, and it happens a lot where, I can't breathe. And you walk down there, you look at the reports, you look at the basement, it's tight, and you try to explain to the person, well, really, there's nothing for us to do here. Yeah. And they don't want to hear that either. They want to be like, well, we're not going to start ripping stuff out to say that there's no reason to.
You value your reputation is worth. Yeah, you value
your honesty to the client. But I understand that, Ken. Just like if someone just somehow believe they have a certain illness, right? You went to the doctor run the test and say, nope, you're healthy. Instead of jump up for joy, you say, nope, you're wrong, doctor. Let's get a second opinion.
Let's get a second opinion.
Let's get a second opinion. Sometimes it happens. I mean, it's personality, but maybe the certain time of your life, Yeah. I mean, it's really like, for example, right? I mean, I'm always carefree. I'm always, never worry about anything.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But when my mother was sick, got a cancer, when we went back, a year later, tried to get recessed, the doctor did the test, said she's okay. She's like, no problem. Did I believe her? No, absolutely not. Immediately, I scheduled a second doctor. The second doctor run all the tests, said, yep, she's good, she's okay. Well, how do I know? I went to the third doctor because for me, I would be happy, but for my mother, I went to 3 doctors. 3 said, lucky she's in Australia. If it's in America, I don't think the doctor can prescribe all the tests here.
Well, or you have to pay for it out of your pocket.
Yeah, because they won't prove the insurance
depends on your
company.
Insurance, though, right? That's a whole other conversation.
But anyway, sometimes with the as a real estate agent, my role is to advise client as the best I can, but also calm them down. I mean, just like Ken said, right? They say, oh, my God, when they heard the mold, they want to move out to the hotel.
Yeah.
I said, no. I said, you live here 30 years, you don't have a problem. You're healthy. Now you want to move out the hotel tonight.
And the big thing with mold, too, is it's one of if it's considered a latent defect, you have to, now it's full disclosure. And the law has changed from 30, 40 years ago when it was caveat emptor, buyer beware. Now it's whatever the seller knows. They have the obligation to tell the list agent. The list agent has to, whether or not the seller agrees, has to disclose anything that's a latent defect, so mold, anything that's hidden, or that's not readily apparent that's not visually apparent, has to be just to the buyers. That's a big. The law has changed. You're liable. Otherwise you'd be subject to a lawsuit. It's a very serious thing, and the seller the agent has a fiduciary duty always to the seller, but you have a duty of honesty, fairness, and full disclosure of defects to the buyer.
Yes,
the buyer agent. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know. That's so much. And you guys are so honest. That's very nice.
No, you have to protect your client.
It's the right thing to do, and it's
the right thing to do, right?
Yeah, it's the right thing for the seller.
Right?
Yeah, protect your client in the right, advise them the right way.
Jumping gears, and I'm sorry for going back, but just going back to Stachybotrys and Stacky, right, which is the most really it's the when you hear that name you're like and there's another one, Chitonium.
Yeah,
another one.
Not Chlorosporidium. That's a more common one.
Yeah, like Aspergillus.
Aspergillus,
that one's all over. But even with Stacky, and there is another one, but I'm sorry I don't know it. Please excuse me.
That's okay. That's
it's airborne too, like in November when it's sort of warm but not really cold and the leaves are falling and there's Stacky in the air in an ambient setting. Like you go outside to the park, there's just lots of leaves. There's Stacky in the air. Just pointing that out that people do tend to overreact to things. Now, granted, you're outside of the park to being exposed to Stacky as compared to in your home.
Enclosed environment, right. Well, guess what, guys? We are out of time, so we're going to have you. Thankfully, you're coming back next week to continue our discussion.
Yeah, it's
and
wonderful.
And thank you for coming on our show. And please give your phone number again for Frank Formisano of ServPro of Piscataway, East Rutherford, and Clifton.
Yep. Thank you, Kenny. My number is 732-752-4445.
All right. Please give Frank a call for all your restoration needs. Thanks. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.